people. So, woefully unprepared for this, but if I don't get started now, I probably won't get started. Just got finished dropping off Gypsy at work because I gotta have the truck for doctor's appointment at 11. I figure the job I want to do today should probably take 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes, which means I need to set an hour and a half at least aside for a 10-15 minute job. It's freaking cold this morning, so now I'm doing a bit of a strip tease. To match the temperature in here. It's kind of funny, I went outside with Gypsy on the way to the truck, and I was like, oh, my ears are cold, my hands are cold. God, if I only had been more prepared, I would have brought a hat and some gloves. And after I got to the truck, I was like, I bet I would have a hat in my pocket and some gloves in my pockets. Because, yeah, 20-some years ago, I had brain damage from chemicals at work getting into my system and building up. I've had a lot of issues and memory problems since then. I've gotten a hell of a lot better than I was, but one of the things I had to try and teach myself was to be prepared. And this is part of that. It's like, I know that at some point I'm going to need a hat. So, have a hat in the pocket, have gloves in the pocket of the coat. And hey, made me ready for this moment where I had what I needed, got ready for it a year ago. Unlike this project here on this guitar. Started thinking about what I'd need 4 years ago. This hat has a bit of a story. Because back when I had a lot worse problems, have to go in all the time, say for doctor's appointments or this or that, and have to fill out forms or give information, which was like the worst thing for me with the memory issues and comprehension issues and things. So needed to let the people know that I was disabled, that I needed somebody to help kind of interpret and slow things down to the point, to speed that I could compile. And it was a real problem trying to communicate that to people, because I'd be like, huh? And if you've got an arm off, that's an obvious disability. They're like, oh, well, maybe that guy will need help getting through the door. But when it's a mental disability, something that can't be easily seen, especially if you look pretty normal and act pretty normal otherwise, until they ask you a question, you're like, it was difficult for him to get, shift that gears into like, oh, how's he disabled? But What? So like, I started wearing this hat with Winnie the Pooh on it, a Pooh hat, and it would go like up to say receptionist at a doctor's office, especially if I had to do it alone, like start asking me questions, stuff like disabilities, brain damage, some memory problems. So give me some, help me out with this. And well, a lot of times, they would have handed you a form that they expect you to be able to fill out, and to me, that was just a lot of text on a piece of paper. Couldn't work with it right, and they'd be like, "Huh?" And I'd go, point to the Pooh hat, and they'd look up at it and go, "Oh." It helped. It helped that little hurdle. And hopefully nobody that ever listens to this will ever need to come up with something like that. But hey, there's an idea, a way that might help. Alright, gotta go do the Mr. Rogers and change out the shoes for the Mucklucks. Be right back. Only to be my neighbor. Going out. I thought I'd continue a little bit about that era and the importance of always having a fire plan. Me, the concept of a fire plan is like back in the 70s, they'd always have these little PSA commercials. Tended to be during Saturday morning cartoons when that was a thing. And they'd like stress the importance of having a family fire plan. Like, know where all the windows are. Like, if your bedrooms are upstairs, maybe you need to go out on the porch roof and come down if there's a fire downstairs. Have this plan in place. Hey, Joy Boy, why are you hiding on Discord? Don't you love me anymore? Oh, I'll jump on Discord. Ugh. Windows update? No. It's okay, Cal. I'm talking to the TV. Because that's normal. Should make sure I actually have audio. Da 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 da. Looks like it. but I do need to reset audio. Yeah, there we go. La da da da, the reflex. Da 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 da, the reflex. Flex, 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 flex. Don't do bother die. They won't so down around the town. Da 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 da. Wanna be around when this gets out. Ooh, why, can't you? Are you wanting me to stream it into Discord, like the video too, or just be in Discord? I better make sure that the audio is working in there. La la la. Try not to bruise it. Don't lose it. Let's check. Da 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 da. Oh. Da 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 da. Oh, it is working. Okay. Are you off work? I can watch you in here. Okay. Oh, it's got an ad? Well. Oh, work just started for me. Oh, okay. Boo! I could have been hanging out all week. Except I was probably asleep most of the time. Alright. I got everything working now properly. So yeah, they'd have those videos telling kids, make sure your family has a fire plan. So if there's an emergency, you know what to do in advance. And that's really a good idea throughout life. Like a metaphor that just, for when panic situations happen, if they're foreseeable, making a plan in advance. Like, say, once upon a time we were driving to Kansas City, and it was night. My sister was driving, and she slams on the brakes. And we come side up to this vehicle. It was a dark black or really dark blue, not very reflective car, sideways on the road. So it was blocking both lanes. Both sides had concrete temporary barriers because of road work, which is like ongoing year round in Kansas City. So there was a little ways around the lanes, but not much. So yeah, it was apparently this car had something had happened to it, and it had bing banged, ping ponged around a bit and come to a rest there. So there was like parts scattered everywhere. Anyway, so we like pulled aside and we're like, okay, see if we got any blankets in the car for people, because it was like a lady and some kids and her baby. There had been a couple of people must have already been there because they like gotten the people out of the car and off to the side. We were like, see what we could get to try and help this situation. We have to have some sheets and stuff in the trunk for on the way to laundry day that were left in there. We got those. Tried to help with keep people from going into shock. And we had some flashlights in there, and my friend Donovan and I went up the road a bit, and we're like flashing the cars because there was no light in this whole area. It was outside of town. It was just black. Kansas, black, flat, nothing to indicate a problem, and no way to really see it coming. I don't know how my sister even saw it before we plowed into it. Anyway, so we got some lights and we're like waving at traffic, getting their attention, telling them, go along the side. There wasn't enough room for the traffic to keep going around one side. And there was this one minivan just came roaring up full speed. We're like waving the lights, trying to get their attention, and they're just and yeah, I got as close as I could. It must have passed a few inches from me. My sister thought it hit me, but it didn't. It went by, but I had just enough time to turn, and I saw the lady had gone to dig in her car in the back seat for something for the baby, like a baby bag or something, and which is logical but dangerous in this situation. I was like, "Get off the road!" And she like moved just a little bit, but it clipped her as it slammed into the car. Yeah, it's like after that, it's like these lights aren't enough, so I jumped in the car, ripped around, did a U-turn, and came up so that the lights were shining towards the traffic, but had the car silhouetted so that you could see, from a distance, there's an obstruction. Anyway, after that, we had a little emergency kit in the car. It's like got maybe a few little flare things and some reflective triangles and various useful things. Emergency blanket. And yeah, sounds like road flares would be a good thing for you guys to have out there. Oh, good. Not enough people have emergency kits in their vehicles. Yeah. Yeah, well, you don't think about it. It's like, why would I have an emergency? Well, you don't generally plan an emergency. You have to plan for it in advance. Be ready so that if the emergency happens, and that's a foreseeable one. It's like, why wouldn't you have the things you know you need if you come across something like this? It's $5. Yeah. So we had a fire plan for that in the future. And then I kind of carried that around to other parts of my life. Like, I ended up with, I would carry around a little, like butt pack, man bag, whatever you want to call it. And I had like 2 flashlights, a box cutter knife, like a multi-tool. There's pliers and screwdrivers and some nitrile gloves, and I don't think I had those until after. That may have been post-COVID, I can't remember. Or I may have had them in there because do mechanical things, and it was conceivable that we might break down on the side of the road, and I might be able to fix it. Even though I had brain problems, I still also had a lot of years of experience that would randomly work. Had the tool, and I had some regular mechanic gloves, because my hands are soft these days. I don't use tools enough to have full calluses. Anyway, that was kind of my emergency kit there. So that I had to have things ready. But a friend of ours, there was some occasion, maybe Christmas or something, I don't know. Everybody, it was like a gift exchange, and one of the things he handed out was like little emergency blankets in a tiny pouch. And I was like, well, now I got to put that in my bag, because there's that whole concept of like karma or fate or galactic irony that if I had this thing and I don't have it with me in an emergency, I'm gonna be like, don't I have that? So that has stayed in the bag for the last 8 years, just in case. Maybe galactic irony skipped past me because like, oh, he's got an emergency blanket in his bag. Go for the next guy. Anyway, it's a good idea to have some of those plans in advance. How to get out of your house in case of a fire, because when it's a panic situation, that's not the time to think about what to do, because there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of dangers often, and sometimes there's people being distracting, and if there's a fire in your house, maybe pets, kids. What do we do? What do we? You need. That's not the time to be planning carefully, thinking, "Oh, what we should do." No, do it in advance. Get it in your brain so that when the time comes, you execute those steps by reflex. Get the get the get the emergency blankets. Go to the truck. Get the flares. Get the little reflective things. Put them up there. Maybe turn the car around so it faces the lights if it's at night and there's no freaking light around it. Yeah, be ready to do that when it happens. Every home should have a 72-hour kit as well. It takes time for FEMA to respond. You don't want to be stuck with nothing for 3 days. Oh yeah, we're in Kansas, but actually this town had a tremendous flood before I lived here. Where the whole freaking town was like surrounded by a lake. Yeah, we don't have like, we have tornadoes, but they generally leave devastation and it's not too hard to get in there. Occasionally we have massive range of things knock stuff out, but not usually here. More like in Missouri and things. Anyway, but so we don't have like hurricanes. Obviously, like within the last year, there's been some major hurricanes and things. People left for days without others being able to get to them. So definitely in those areas, have a plan. Know what you're gonna need to take if you need to get out in a hurry, like what to do with your pets. Don't be like that guy that's like, I didn't know what to do, so I tied my dog to a fence and left. Fucking guy. If he'd had time to think about it, maybe he might have gone, oh, well, maybe I should just let it go, that it at least has a chance. Jesus. But yeah, think about those things in advance. If it's, foreseeable, if it's something you can easily imagine happening, it very well may. Be ready for it. Anyway, let's see. I'm a little more awake now, which is good. I like had the initial I'm up, take Gypsy to work, and then like when they crash. Here in Utah, we not get anything really. We are long due for a major life-ending earthquake, but even an attack could happen, putting you in that situation. An attack, like people. Don't know much about Utah, but like it was like Wyoming or something was actually had like for the land area. There's like far fewer people than most other states, but for the area, a far higher chance that somebody would shoot you. You walk around, don't find people for miles, and then come across somebody. They're like, "Stranger danger!" Zombie attack. I'm gonna go refill my streamer drink, energy drink thing. I've got to mix it. I'll be back. Yeah, flatland areas are just large kill zones. In some places, I was surprised that Alaska had such a high uh, crime rate. Of course, like a couple of months after I found out how horribly high the crime rate is in Alaska and murder rate and things, I find out my daughter has moved to Alaska. So that was a happy moment. Got no string in my pants. I want to just gradually slide down, especially if I got my phone in my pocket. Excuse me. Need to mount this sucker on the back of my headstock, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Pick holder. So I did some pretty much finished up the setup on this. What the hell? God damn it. Look down and the tremolo is tipped. It was level last night. What the hell? Huh. It's an illusion. Especially with a shiny guitar, this can happen, but it's good to have some kind of physical item to put down. Using it here to check the gap at the front and back. And, oh gosh, you know, it might be, I could just see, like, the line is a bit dark there. And there's no line at all here. But it's basically flat, but it looks like it's tilted. Okay, whew. It's like, good, god damn, I don't want to do any more of that. Unless you're in the military, you have to be crazy to move here. Oh, really? Move to Alaska, who does that? Well, apparently my daughter. Met a guy. It's like, oh, a guy that, I don't know if he does seasonal fishing up there. Stuff is like, okay. Sure, he's a wonderful fellow. Hopefully he is. I assume he is because, you know, if my daughter likes him, he must be wonderful, right? Actually, I don't think she's the type to choose somebody that's at least an obvious problem. Oh Lord, it's always about the pee-pee, isn't it? Perhaps so. and did what setup I could on this last night, but then and I loved it. It's way better than before, but yeah, I talked about how like all these specs and settings people want to say, well, it really depends on the player. Well, I'm a bit aggressive on my bass strings. I was getting a bit too much rattle. It's a tune, it's just me that's off. So on an electric, a little bit of string rattle isn't a big deal generally. Let me make sure I don't have a high fret. I've never checked this neck. I measured the, I looked at the relief, but, and hey, this is still in the package. I've never used it, so why not? How do you fix string rattle? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you have a string that's rattling, then you need to look at both your upper bridge or nut height and your saddle height down here, because the guitar, all of your sound happens between these two fulcrums. Strings are bent over those. Fret acts as a fulcrum too. So if you have a rattle, like say in the middle of your fretboard, but not here, the problem's happening somewhere between these two fulcrums. You also can have neck bow, like the neck can be bowed one way or the other. If it's got back bow to it, then you'll hit in the middle. Anyway, if you have like a traditional nut, which is just a piece of plastic or bone or whatever with grooves in it, then you can like mix some super glue with I think it's baking powder or baking soda. Make a little bit of a paste, put it in the groove, wait a little bit, and then file the groove back down so you end up with a string a little bit higher. Down here, some sort of shimming to get it up and down. Floyd Roses don't have saddle height adjustment individually. You could tip, like raise one. We've got two pivots here. Could raise one to get like this side higher, but I don't want to do that because with this kind of tremolo, you have like a tight angle V on this, it's like a blade here, and then you have a wide angle V on the screw, so your little thing tips back up and down within that groove. And if you go three-dimensional on this, you got one of those grooves on each side. If you tip it, then you've got, you're not directly in line with the groove that's on here. So your blade is more likely to ride out than just up and down, which is going to make it more likely to go out of tune and things like that. So we really want this to stay level and correct it by shimming this up, even though it's much easier to do this. You know, everybody complains about tremolos going out of tune, having to fiddle with it all the time. Well, that's one of the reasons people have to fiddle it with it is they don't shim, they do that. So we're going to shim. My nuts are low. Well, we may just have to cut them off. Oh! So I'm going to try this little fret rocker thingy here. I'm going to put this across 3 frets and see if... Well, according to this fret is a bit high. This fret is a bit high. It's just really small amount. That fret's a little bit high. That one's either fine or low. That one's a bit high. Good Lord. Yeah, I don't know the history of this neck, but I only know that the headstock is broken, which a lot of times things go up on eBay that the headstock's been broken and repaired that are just actually done by music stores where got broke before you ever even got played. In fact, my acoustic guitar is one that was thrown in the trash can behind a music store because the headstock had broken. Okay, so my 7th fret is a bit high, and that's kind of in the area that I do a lot of playing. Let's see where one of those other ones. So I'm checking 3. Doing this so that it goes across 3 frets at a time and seeing if it rocks. It's called a fret rocker. If it rocks, then you got a high spot in the middle. This one doesn't rock. This one does. No, that one doesn't either. This one does. Of course, since the frets change spacing, it's got different sides. So once the gap gets to be too big here, we switch to the other. I was trying to see. So I was checking to see if the rattle that was bugging me was in this range. And it seems to be going most of the way up. I don't think this one's high enough to be causing it. So, yeah, it does need shimming. I think in this case, the shimming is going to solve both problems. Because it's just a little too much. I don't know if this can actually hear it or not. Like there's a there's actually like 2 levels of rattle. There's like a deeper kind of general rattle, and then there's a high pitched kind of buzz. And it's that high buzz that I need to get rid of. You could hear the rattle the whole time. Oh, that tool rocks. Oh my god. Well, no need to fret about it. Oh man, you are on fire, boy. I am so glad you're here. I was actually wondering what you were up to. But now I don't have to wonder because you're here. Okay. Time for a Sweetwater ad. I bought a lot of their parts. Generally free shipping. They're awesome. They're not paying me for this advertisement. But something that I find really cool is that they give you candy when you with each order. I didn't know about it until I opened my first box from them. I was like, candy? Well, that's nice. So let us have a piece of Sweetwater candy while we decide what to do. Oh my god, an atomic fireball. I need to send that to Justin. He got me to eat one while he was down a few days ago. Came down for Christmas. Usually hear from him from Lawrence, Kansas. Tootsie Roll. I want candy. Dun, 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 dun. I want candy. I love the way this guitar has worked out overall. It's a little warm, time to hike up the pants leg a bit. I want candy. Alright. This needs to be put away. It didn't come out of this pickup box because it won't fit in there. I'll put that in this. In my box of pickup boxes. Doing a little house cleaning while I look around here. We've done quite a few little projects over the last week or so I've got everything out. But now I need something that I saw on like the first day. Girl, look at that guitar. It works out. Work out. I really am on fire with these dad jokes today. Yes, yes you are. Yeah, so I need something that I came across on one of the early days of these projects. It's a little Ziploc baggie or plastic clear bag. Might not have been Ziploc, but it had a bunch of saddle shims for Floyd Rose. I was like, oh, didn't expect I'd need them. Now I need them. I looked all over yesterday, I couldn't find them. So, yeah, now is not a bad time to put away some of this shit. Because it may just be right here. Somewhere. unlike at my previous house, I've actually got a place for most of these things, or got places for them, so I'm going to put them there. Like wood punches. I don't need those right now. Bead solder. Whatever this shit's called, solder something. Tape. I always need tape. So leave that out. I'm going to empty my trash bucket. Oh, I can actually see my table now. Gypsy's cellophane tape I'll go put back in her room. Or our room, or whatever. Boy, there is just a pile of pieces of cardboard, pieces of brass, pieces of wire, paper towels, pieces of tape, pieces of two-sided tape backing. It's a freaking mess in here. I actually have been kind of cleaning up as I go along a bit. There's a couple of shims that I've made before out of guitar pick, but I don't want to use plastic. So I don't want to deaden any transfer vibration. The opposite of a lot of modern players want to deaden any kind of vibrations. But I like the secondary vibrations, the overtones, sympathetic vibrations that all kind of vibrate down and back and through the strings. There's a great video about sympathetic vibration. You've been working on a table this whole time? Yeah, amazing. It's down underneath all this shit. I like vibrations. Good vibration. See, that there X-Acto knife, that can go away. That can go away. Well, actually I might need those. Those can stay. What? Guitar pick? What? Oh, that's a extra used one. Oh, the video. A guy has a piano and has been modified so that what you end up hearing, like you'll play like a chord, but then it'll mute the original notes, and all you end up hearing, like amplified or on the audio track, is the sound of all the other like strings in the piano that have vibrated, been caused to vibrate from the original vibrations. And so he like plays some various things, and it's interesting, this sort of music that comes from the vibrations that aren't the ones that you're like intending to make. But it all kind of lends itself back into the sound. I have some frustrating news. Uh-oh, what's that? So I went ahead and looked through my parts stack over there while I was at it. Okay. Really wish I could come up with a more accurate body composition scale. My scale attempted to tell me I lost muscle mass when I sew. No, I did not. Lost some weight, but not muscle mass. I wouldn't think you could lose muscle mass that fast. I don't even know how you could tell something like that from, I don't know, what is it, some sort of calculation where you put in some variables? I don't know. Never used one of those. I had a guitar that did the whole string vibration crap. I never really got far into playing the guitar, so I never bothered to fix it. Was it acoustic or electric? And usually, if you like develop a lot of string rattle, it usually means the neck is actually bowed backwards a little bit, and there's a it's called a truss rod. I don't have a good one handy to show at the moment. The one that's in this neck is actually on that end. The one that was originally on this body back in the 80s, there's a little bit of a recess there because the truss rod adjustment was at this end. But this is a more modern neck from a Beretta Special, and the recess is on this end. Inside there is a little nut, generally adjusted with an Allen key, and you either tighten or loosen that to adjust the neck bow, which is called relief. Anyway, that is usually the most common reason for a guitar that has been okay to start vibrating, because usually things like the bridges don't magically and suddenly change height, but humidity, temperature, changing strings, various things can cause the wood in the neck to bow up or down. And there's always, with a steel stringed instrument, there's always a bit of a balance because the strings create quite a bit of tension, which will cause it to want to bow this way, which is why truss rods were invented, to push that back down and straighten it. With a classical instrument or something with nylon strings, there's not very much string tension, so those a lot of times don't even have a truss rod. Anyway, truss rod adjustment is something, it's not hard to do, but if you don't do it, then it's likely to go out of whack over time. Just nature of the beast. Oh, why is this not? Get out of my way, thing. I love string instruments, however my ability to tell the right notes to even tune one is non-existent. That's there's like two main areas that cause that issue. One is just your ear hasn't been trained yet to deal with, to look for the specific notes. The other is if you actually have, a bit of a physical problem in in your hearing that could cause tone deafness. Which I had a friend back in the 90s who was a bass player, and he loved bass, and like it was like a deeply ingrained thing that he wanted to play bass. There always seemed to be some oddities about, because we did a lot of improv and just jamming, where he would kind of make some odd changes and things. Long story short, it occurred to me one day, it's like, is he tone deaf? Because I hadn't even thought of it. And so we started, I don't remember how we kind of tested it, but like, very depending on the degree of it, you like similar notes will sound the same, or and it basically made it so like if well, one of the things that I noticed is he could not tune harmonically. Like, see, like here's the note. If I don't push down on the fret, okay. If I only touch the fret lightly, I mean the string lightly, and don't push it down, right above the fret, you get what's called a natural harmonic. And on a guitar, can't see what you're writing at the moment. I have a hearing problem. I don't listen. Let's see. Oh, scale is supposed to send through an electric pulse that reads body composition. Oh, neat. It's hard to read on this thing. I don't need to know this. 17 seconds. Can I pause this damn ad break? Snooze. Okay, there we go. Acoustic. Okay, because on an electric, a little bit of string rattle on your bass strings is just kind of part of the beast. But it doesn't generally get amplified that much. So, like, you might hear it while you're playing acoustically. I don't know. Can't really hear it right there, but yeah, just a little. But when you plug it into an amp, you hear the note. You don't really hear that. If it's really bad, then you might hear it, or it might actually push down here and you get this note instead of this one. But yeah, on an acoustic, you're gonna hear like all the rattle. So they generally run their action, which is the space between here and the string, a little higher to prevent fret rattle. And it affects them more. But yeah, my guess is you probably had a bit of back bow. But it also could have needed a bridge adjustment. Anyway, let me get back to what I was thinking. Oh my god, this thing keeps covering up the part I'm trying to read. Okay. I do have a scale that has another lead you hold to better send the electric pulse through the body. What I have read, even that is very inaccurate. Oh, I have a hearing problem, alright. I just don't listen. Sorry, I know the conversation is all over the place right now. Between two conversations, I am keeping up though. Well, that's all that's important. You seem to be keeping up as well. Yeah, it's alright. This is not a tutorial video. This is a life stream. This just happens to be what I'm doing with my life at the moment. So, we can talk about whatever. So I was going to go back to the harmonic thing. So, with an electric, well, with any guitar, with standard tuning, you have this note. If you go to the 5th fret, that should be the same as the next string open note. Open is no finger, no fretted note. This one should be the same as the next one. Uh-oh. Mine's a little off. I don't know if it's because that's better. That should be the same as the next note. When you get to this string, you go down one. Those often sound bad. That's supposed to be the same note. That one's a little low. But he wasn't doing the best with being able to tell those, but that's kind of a common thing. But usually harmonic tuning, I like, if you have, as long as you have one string you know is in tune, like this is actually A. If that's correct, then you can go 5th fret, harmonic on the next fret, on the 7th, next string on the 7th fret. Those two harmonics should ring the same. That one's fine. Okay, so that one's got a bit of a warble. Goes woo 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 woo, rings. So if I go and use my fine tuner, and in this case I could tell the second one was ringing high. I always go low high because that way I know which one is the offender. That's very close now. It's probably easier to notice. If I do these and I turn one. There's a very big difference. So the warble is bigger. If you can't hear that warble, I don't know if it comes over the mic. But in person, if you can't hear that warble, if it's loud enough, then that's a problem. A person that's tone deaf won't even know that warble is there. And he was tone deaf enough that was a thing. You couldn't. He's like, what wavery sound? He couldn't hear it. Oh yeah. All right. Let's see. The two-string instruments I've been super interested in playing is the piano and violin. Oh yeah, cool. I've always really wanted to try those too. Well, I have tried piano, but I never knew it really as a kid or throughout my life until after the brain damage thing. As I started getting better in many ways, some issues remained, and after getting some memory back to be able to compare more of my earlier life, now it's like I realized that a lot of these issues that I still have and struggle with and affect me, I actually had to some extent throughout my life, but they've been amplified tremendously. And back in the day, yeah, I have some learning disabilities. Uh, I probably would have been diagnosed with ADHD back then, even though it wasn't as life affecting and obvious as it is now. Uh, but back when I was a kid, in school, it was like you're either one of the retards, which was a pretty broad category. They all rode the short bus, had their own classes, and were generally very obviously having trouble. Most of the time, not all of them, but and then there was the rest that were all kind of thrown in to the main class. And then nowadays, like retarded, oh my god! But back then, that was just like the category, like ADHD. Nobody goes, oh my god, you said that they had ADHD. Actually, once upon a time, that was a thing. It's like, shh, he has ADHD. But yeah, it's not. It, it was an insult if you used it as an insult, but it was also like a description or a category. And of course, there would have been more specific things, but yeah, there wasn't an internet. Everybody didn't know. People that didn't have anyone in their family that had this kind of issue, and so they knew what these words would mean, didn't use those terms because it didn't spread around. So, like, if it was a big, obvious thing, then maybe I'm trying to think of like muscular dystrophy. People generally like heard of that and could maybe recognize it, but there wasn't so many commonly and precisely defined categories. Anyway, when I wanted to learn to play piano, I like could not learn to read music, like associate the letters with the notes. That I've never really been able to do that. Not like in a book transferable way. I can very slowly work out, like if I've got sheet music, go okay, FACE and EDGB or whatever, and go okay. So this for the simple notes, figure out which one it is, but then I wouldn't know what to do with it on here. It was a big when tabs started becoming common enough to show up in our small town in some magazines and books. It's like, oh my god, something I can use. But I had to do everything by ear on the guitar, And my mother knew how to play piano, but she, you know, like kind of lost patience, tried to teach me, but like I was very good at matching things. Like if I heard a note, just random, really go okay. Knowing where that note was that I just heard, knowing what it was. So that made me pretty good at learning by ear, but that wasn't how people were trained back then. And yeah, so I didn't get to really learn what to do with the piano. I could find notes that I liked, but I never was able to do anything with that before we didn't have one anymore. And when my family first got like some El Cheapo guitar, nobody in my family knew how to play it. There was no internet. There was no books. It's like how do you magically change the notes? I didn't know you even had to push down. Didn't know how to tune it or anything. And then like I really wanted to learn to play guitar, but and it's hard to learn when you don't know anything about it. So I just and then I got the news that the guitar had been sold for like $5 at a garage sale. And it's like, what? I'm like, well, you weren't really doing anything with it. And like, I talked yesterday about how I worked my way back into getting a guitar, starting with a plastic one, because my parents did not want me to have one. I guess I made too much noise. Uh, so I kind of had to cheat my way back into having one. Not tone deaf, hear both the rattle from the one string and the wobble. Those hope for me. Yes. For me, and for the most part, people can say whatever they want as long as the intent is not to be rude or mean. Well, yeah, but that's me, and I'm not the rule setter for public or social interactions. uh, I kind of grew up in a world where a lot of things, like a lot of cursing was used. The mechanical family. There's some cursing involved. That, there was the words, like, this fucking thing. It's not meant as like a poor thing, but if you were like, you fucker, that's meant to be that way. It's meant to, as an attack, an offense. Some words, they're the context is what defines their meaning. Some people, well, it's not just some people, all people with various words have words that are sort of triggers for them. They only recognize it in one context or only to mean one thing. But it's like if it gets used in this other way, it actually means this other thing. Most part people could say whatever they want as long as the intent is not rude. Okay, I think that seems to be. I think we seem to be caught up there. But yeah, Joy, if you can hear that warble, then I don't think you're tone deaf. Just maybe you haven't learned how to use the notes to be, like Like, if you ever heard Smoke on the Water, you probably recognize that. So, you know, that is not difficult to do. All I'm doing is pushing down these two center notes and playing these two center notes. I don't know if I can get high enough to see both at the same time. Maybe I can do it up here. It's hard to do up there because neck's in the way. Open. This may not be the way it's actually played, but it is phonically, you know, similar enough, I think. Just pushing down these two, playing these two. And when I managed to get a plastic guitar, I didn't know how to tune the guitar, but like find a note that sounded okay, and then like if you can find like the root of the chord. The way a guitar works, pretty much. If you find that root, then you can push over the next string too, and that makes a truncated chord. And the way bar chords work is you take this like to there, and you just add over one string lower and down two, or rather. Yeah, you take that chord, add a bass note. A whole lot of rock is based off of just that chord. Find the root note, go up two and over two. Oh. I'm not in a good position to play guitar correctly, but maybe you get the idea. Nice electric piano. Let's see. Oh yeah, my whole family are tough, hard-working people, so rough, tough is our way of life. That's why in some ways my city life pencil-pushing lifestyle is different. I'll just buy me an electric piano. Oh yeah. One thing a good keyboard will be pressure sensitive. So like if you just push down a key lightly, it'll be like da, a light note, and if you hit it, bah! But all the cheap like Casios and stuff when I was a kid, it's just all or nothing, on or off. Like with a real guitar, you can, or you can go. You know, it's like an analog device. There's varying degrees depending on how hard you hit it. But if you go and get one of those on-off Casio things and hit the guitar button so it just goes, then it's every note is all. But yeah, so I'm not happy with cheap keyboards, and I've never been able to afford one that's good enough to have good pressure sensitive keys. I also struggled with playing a single string versus a strum. When I first heard and saw Annie DeFranco, I was just dumbstruck. She is crazy good on the guitar. Oh, you have to send me a video. One of those electric pianos, that is just like an actual piano, foot pedals and all. Yeah, that's another thing, is the foot pedals. Yeah. Like one of those, you could deaden the strings, which is like the difference between that open note and a muted. You have a pedal to do that on the piano. On here, you just put your palm on the string. That would be cool. Okay, struggle playing a single string versus a strum. I'm not sure what context you mean. Because you don't generally strum the whole guitar and get like the same note as a single string, unless you do like the bar chord and you go off a root note. I can't push it down right from this direction. That's my root note. Third fret there. But if I were to strum this, it would not be in whatever note that is. Let's go here, because I know that's A. Because this is A. Therefore, the fifth one here, which is the same, is A. So A is our root note. This would not be an A chord. But this, if I push down 2 frets up and 1 over, and then the next string too, if I play those 3 together, I'm not strumming the whole guitar, I'm just strumming those first 3 strings. That would be some, I don't know, some version of A. If I put a finger here, I could put a finger there, put my finger across all of these, so I'm pushing down this string. These are up here, but then this string and this string are being held down by this finger. That would be the full version of, like, what is it, A minor or something? I don't know. Major? Minor? A-ish. But when you play the first 3, you can get away with it. Then the chord that I'm playing there is the same overall note as the individual one that I was playing. A and still A. But yeah, if you just bar that, then it's not an A. It's a mess. When I used to have the brains to be able to help people learn things about guitar, like how to play it, a lot of people would be like shown some chords and things, but not really have the connection to be able to use those for anything really. Or to get the sound from those chords that they wanted to hear. And I focus mainly on rock. And in rock, you don't always play like full classic chords. A lot of times they're truncated. And that could really throw you off if you're like, okay, I'm playing this chord just like I was taught, and it doesn't sound like the record. Which was something I ran into when I got my first guitar book. I wanted to play some songs off of Van Halen 2. And I was like, I'm gonna get this book and learn. And it's like for guitar and piano. Never get one that says for guitar and piano, because what it'll be is fucking piano chords. And a few classical chord things up here, and it's all piano sheet music. And turning that into what you actually do to make the real sounds on the guitar, like on the record, is like get one that says for guitar tablature. That goes off of string numbers, fret numbers, and is you can have exactly what you're supposed to play there. Uh, I don't remember where I started. Oh, when I would help people learn, a lot of times it would just be like a matter of taking what they knew and helping them understand what they had to do a little differently to turn what they knew into what they were wanting to hear. And once they got what they're doing here to sound like what they expected to hear, they could, have a much better relationship on how to make, create the sound you wanted to hear. So it's not just like it said, do this in a book and I'm doing that. It's like, how do I make this sound? Oh, well, I've learned I do this to make this sound. And so then you can repeat that. And you can improvise with it because you're like, what if I do this sound and I've learned both those sounds, put them together and see what we get. But to kind of help with that, I would like try to find something like Smoke on the Water, something that they had a good like phonic memory of, so that they could recognize when they got it the way they remembered it. And then it was generally a matter of, teaching them where they needed to have the pressure better, how to hold it to make it easier to get pressure on the strings. Because a lot of times, you have to kind of shift your hand to get it to actually work right. And it's not, in the books it's always like straight. Well, a lot of times you need to actually rock. Like for the bar chord, as an example, what I'm calling a bar chord is like the quote unquote power chord, where you have a root note, go up 2 frets, over 1 fret, and press down that fret on the next one. So it's these 3 notes. And what was I saying about this? Oh, to learn this chord, if you're going straight across, a lot of people, this finger is longer than this finger. Or some people, it's the same length. Well, if you just rotate your hand, magically, you end up in the right place. Because as you rotate your hand, it effectively makes this finger shorter and already 1 string over. So it's like, oh, I don't know how to, no, just do this. Rock it a little. Don't try to, which is harder and harder on your wrist, whereas this is very natural. So I'm like, lay your hand flat across there, which is already tends to be the natural spacing anyway. It's 2 frets apart. Not having to do anything to do this. This is very natural. And just rotating it a little bit, that's still a quite natural position for your hand because it's still just laid down. Especially if they try to hold these 2 strings down with 1 finger, they're going to kill themselves. To get it to not rattle on one or the other of those. But yeah, a lot of what I would do would just be helping them get that. Getting them to learn that sort of bar chord, which is difficult to get at first because it's hard to get enough pressure in all the places. But once you got it, you've got a lot more range of things that you can do than if you learn just, this chord or this chord. It's like, oh, I can play one note out of 3 songs I wanted to play. Whereas if you learn this chord that you can move around all the way up the neck to get, you know, basically all of these notes, you could play 20 songs, 30 songs, 50 songs. Maybe not perfectly, but enough to, be doing it, and then maybe you can learn the more correct way a little farther down the road. Yep, you explained my problem exactly. Things trying to teach me. I was like, I don't know, strum or play a single chord. Yeah. Well, the problem you're experiencing, I found to be a pretty common problem. And these people would work so hard to try to do these lessons the way they learned, and it's hard to make that sound like what you want to hear, especially if you're going for, common rock. They're not using those chords necessarily. Unless you're like AC/DC, they actually, like, a lot of times are using full chords, but it's the way they play it and what they're playing through makes it sound awesome. It doesn't sound like Mel Bay cowboy chord. It sounds like AC/DC. I have to trick others into think I know what I'm doing. Yes! And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. You could say, well, it's a trick of the ear because you're producing part of the same thing that you're hearing over here, but you're hearing enough of what you're expecting to hear that's effective. But it's not necessarily, faking or trying to fool with a bad connotation. Because as an example, what I'm trying to say the concept I'm trying to get across is, like, in the 90s when we formed our first band, and we wanted to, be rock and roll. I used a lot of the quote unquote power chord. I say quote unquote because somebody is going to hear that and go, "Are you just singing a power chord?" Like that. Whatever word I use, I'm describing that. Anyway. And I played a lot of just 2 strings together to make a chord, which would really only be like the part of a chord or whatever. Anyway, I didn't know a lot of full traditional chords in a way that I could really use them or even recognize them by ear necessarily if I was trying to learn a song. But for what we were doing the sounds we wanted to do. But then we got a singer, and it's like, a real singer. There's this guy that did karaoke and had a huge following already, a bunch of towns in the area. And he decided, instead of doing karaoke, singing along with the box, he'd sing along with a band. And we're like, hey, we could play in front of people. Match made in heaven. Only problem is, he did all like oldies. Jailhouse Rock, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, all these things. There's like a lot of songs that did use traditional full chords a lot of times. And what I found out really quickly is they also sort of cheated. Not as in making music, but as in what you could actually play with the number of the people in the band. Like they have like 4 people in a band, but somehow when you like started really listening to the tracks, there's like 5 guitars, 3 bassists, and 2 drummers. It's like, how do we play this live? uh, because it's multiple tracks laid over each other, and it kind of comes across as one sound. So not only did I not know a lot of the chords they were using, it's also like multiple parts. So what I ended up doing like was like, well, how do I remember it if I'm like thinking of this song and find like what I'd remember of of the song, what I'd hear, and I'd play that, which actually ended up being like sometimes it was a combination of what 2 guitar parts were, like part of this chord that they were playing and part of the chord they're playing. It gets pretty much the overall effect, or sometimes it was kind of filling in a gap in something, a chord that wasn't even there, but sounded good in that spot. So it was all kind of a, it was covering like how Jimi Hendrix covered like what's his name, a usually singer. All Along the Watchtower is a very different song by the original singer, and but it's a great song the way Jimmy does it. And so yeah, there was the way we did it, our version. But the thing was, when we went and after that deal fell through, had to learn like I didn't have time to try to learn all those songs for one thing. It was the way they were supposed to be because it was like 50 songs. We had like 2 weeks, and there was no internet. And I couldn't read like piano style sheet music, which might have been more effective for that than it would be for the kind of rock we played. And we didn't have the tab for that. It was, desperate situation. But after we learned all this shit in order to be ready to play this party, the guy showed up, and he he had no connection with the band. He, I guess, was just so used to singing along with a pre-made thing that, like, if his timing got off or whatever, he wouldn't compensate. It, there was just no connection. There's a guy singing and people playing a song. And if we were in a bit different key than normal, he didn't adjust his, he'd sing it in the same key. Which sometimes, they've tuned differently or done things in a key that's not practical without changing all your instruments and various things. But yeah, or the way he learned it with whatever karaoke he learned was not the way it was originally. Sometimes if there was a difference or something, he was oblivious. He may have actually been tone deaf because he didn't seemingly know when things were off, and he didn't have any connection to the timing of the band. It was, but some stuff sounded great. Other stuff was like, oh my god, this is horrible. Anyway, he like showed up once or twice, and he was all happy, but then he's just gone. I decided not to do that. So then we had like 50 oldie songs, and we had a party plan. And we're like, okay, well, our drummer is also a singer. He was actually a singer before he was a drummer. He'll sing and play the drums. And I guess we'll be doing a bunch of oldies. But then we kept on doing that because people liked it. People liked our originals and our versions of the oldies. And then we went and played Spirit Supper Club. And something I found interesting there was like people would come up to me like on breaks and stuff and be like, "Oh my God, I've heard that song played hundreds of times over the years by all these different bands. They never get it right, but you guys played it exactly like the record, exactly how I remember it. Perfect." And it's like I'm sitting there thinking, like, I played that very differently than it originally was. But the important part was I gave them what they really wanted to hear. And what we were doing was playing the parts that meant the most to us out of a song, the parts that made the most impact, were the most memorable to us, you know. And so a lot of the stuff that was in the originals wasn't there, but a lot of that stuff wasn't necessarily the most important stuff anyway. It was kind of a distilled and a bit more rocky version. But the people that liked it tended to really like it and like our versions and stuff. I'm not saying they're great. It's just it gave them what they wanted. And that's really what I think you want to do with music is you want to, like, I wanted to play guitar because I would hear these sounds and they would hit me, you know. I'm like, the sounds from the guitar, even like Jimi Hendrix or Van Halen making like, oh, that resonates with part of my soul or in my heart. These notes make me feel sadness. These make me happy. These make me feel aggressive. Yeah, it was a connection to these sounds. And so, like, I'd want to make these sounds that were important to me, share them with others. So that you have like this language that's, you know, you can express things that you can't necessarily put into words effectively, especially since different, a lot of times the same word doesn't mean exactly the same thing to different people. But like you hear a Japanese love song, you don't have to necessarily know what the words mean at all. It's a different language, but you know it's a love song. You know what they're saying through the tones and the inflections. And so, to me, what's important is to take what you're trying to create, or what you've got inside of you. You want to create that same thing in another person. And so, kind of like with language, sometimes it's not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Like, maybe it's not what chords you're playing, but how aggressively. Sort of like what I was saying with AC/DC. They really were playing a lot of the Mel Bay's chords, but it didn't sound like Mel Bay. Having an amp cranked up to 11, slamming the chord instead of strumming it nicely. Yeah. Well, stop changing things on him all the time. I don't remember what that's in reference to. Oh, on the singer. Well, yeah. I have a feeling it would have been a bad deal because it would have been like for one member of the band, uh, they're going to only do it one way, and no matter whether it's right or wrong, the whole rest of the band will have to change to compensate for them. Whether it's not a working together sort of healthy relationship, or it wouldn't have been had we continued. One trick pony, so rude. Well, apparently his one trick was very effective because he had a huge following. But, like so many things in life, it we probably would have been a lot more successful, like, or at least probably would have gotten paid. uh, a lot of things would have been different in life. But I look back on things like that, and if I start to think, I regret these things, well, I have a daughter I love very much. And the reality is, if anything had changed up to that point, she probably wouldn't exist. So if I love her, I have to love everything that led up to that point, no matter how much it hurts. Which is just kind of a way that I accept things. Dumb down your art for money. Sell out. Exactly. Let's see. Although calling what we did art, yeah. What we played was good for us. Whether it would be good for everybody, of course not. Nobody, there is no such thing as a song that everybody in the world likes. And I have a feeling that there would be a lot of people that would not like the things we did. But a lot of people did. And for those we touched, I'm grateful. And for those that we didn't, well, sorry I wasn't of service. So, I need to figure out how much I need to alter this. I haven't found the shims that I bought that were for this kind of job. I'm going to make another quick attempt to find them. I've searched where they should be so many times. Go through here with a microscope. Oh, I found a rubber band. I needed one of those the other day. There we go. And I've got 4 packages of these things. I think I can combine those. Probably means, see if I've got a bag that's better for all of them. Small bags are convenient, but screws on each one. Have a lot of leftover Ziploc bags after doing this project from all the parts I took out. I'm going to actually throw 2 of these bags in with it in case I change later on. But I'm going to be able to see the parts. Well, maybe not. Yeah. I'm going to be able to see the parts. Let's keep those separately somewhere. Problem is I don't have like a specific drawer or tray for these things. So they're all in one big box with other parts, and all of these individual baggies laying on top of each other can cover a lot of shit. Stuff hides under there. Oh, you'll see that. Alright, not in the big box. Annie DeFranco refused to sell out too. I loved a lot of her original works, like Out of Me to You, 32 Flavors, Napoleon, Untouchable Face. It's actually on her songs I made my online name out of, called Joyful Girl. Oh, cool. I'll have to put some links in Discord to remind me to look her up later, so I can hear some of these. I am interested. I am curious. I'm going to try some more of the Sweetwater candy. And I'm going to put my wrist brace back on because I don't want to mess up my wrist. That's actually why I've got an appointment in an hour. It's still giving me quite a bit of problems after a week or so. Look in this box. What I'm looking for should not be in here, but I know it's not where it should be, so I need to look everywhere that it shouldn't be. Actually, have some custom backing plates and stuff that actually should be in here. So we'll do that. Huh. Found the aluminum thingy I always used to use to hold up my Floyd when changing springs on my old guitar. Thought that was lost. Okay, not in there. Really can't imagine it being in here. Bucket of old strings. Shouldn't be in there. Shouldn't be in here. Don't need that anymore. Oh, what the heck is this? It's some little plastic things that have like embossed symbols. That's like a phone. Computer? No idea. This has a home. Bag pile. Yeah. That has a home too. My sticker that came with the Breda Vintage should be in the bag that has some of the other stuff. If anybody wants to buy a Breda Vintage, now that I've got this guitar put together, I can sell the Vintage. I'm not happy with the shape of the neck. It doesn't fit my hand right. So I want to sell it off and get a different one. Kramer 84. Oh my freaking God, it's what I was looking for. I really felt no hope that I was going to find that. Put these with these. This isn't the best place for this, but it's where I know it's been, so. I actually have a case that I got in hopes it would fit the guitar I gave Tony because I wanted to ship it to Alaska. And it wasn't big enough for that, but maybe it would hold that vintage. Holy shit. Outback Designs. I bet these came out of Australia. I was actually looking for a bigger bag and I thought they were loose in it. Shows how memory can trick you. Outback Designs, but made in China. Okay, so I don't have to make them manually. Which is what I thought I was going to have to do. Well, I might still need... I may still have to make some. We'll see. Depends on how well these work. Oh my God, the sun is blinding me. Got about a half hour till I have to go. I wonder if I'll actually be able to make it. These seem really good today. Okay, I'm gonna eat them all. How much for that? I don't generally eat candy, but have one for each dog. I'm gonna run outside. There's a big ass umbrella and I'm gonna open it up and see if it helps with that sun. I'll be back. What do you want? You want that gal? Here. Well, it wants it to be just where my eyes are. Dog gave me a funny look. Like, what the hell? Well, at least I didn't put a magnifying glass, though I have definitely pinpointed myself pretty well. Ah, okay, if I'm right here, then I'm not blinded. Blinded by the light. Da, 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 da. Okay, so how thick are these suckers? How was the outside? It was out. It's a lot warmer than it was earlier. So I won't need my coat this time when I go out. I've been outside before. Once. Ah, micrometer. Harbor Freight, digital micrometer, not just for nerds, but also for nerds. I think I know why the battery on this keeps going down fast. I think the freaking case actually pushes down on the button to start it. Yeah, it's showing effects of low battery, and this is a brand new battery. Oh well. I can change it later. Out of curiosity. Be about 0.2 millimeter. 0.2 millimeter. 0.0085 inches. Kind of thinking I might put 2 under the low E and 1 under the A. Maybe. Let me check the A. Yeah. Well, maybe I should put 1 under each. See if I can get... I don't know if I can get this in here. Not really. Problem is, where these are at affects the intonation. So I'd like to be able to put them back where they were. Let me use Coca-Cola boxes are dang handy for many things. We're about to see if it'll solve our problem here. I mean, 3 hands at this point would be kind of handy. Okay, I'm going to quickly change my design because that requires too many hands. I'll make it longer so I don't need the pliers. And probably even write E and A so I don't get confused. Alright. Just marking the distance from there to the edge. So I'll be able to put those back fairly easily, hopefully. Didn't end up using that, but I'm going to make it longer so I don't need pliers. Not just for nerds, but they are the only ones who know how to use them. That's why I've got a digital one, because the ones with the dial, it's like, that takes learning and skill. And I just want to use it. Okay. Do I just want to do 1 and 1, or do I want to do 1 and 2? How's my time? Running out of time. Prop up the tremolo so that it's easy to get these springs aside. I made a joke at the beginning of this video that this is probably going to be a 10 or 15 minute job, so I had set aside an hour and a half to do it. Perfect-ish. It's 301 kit thing from Amazon. Little driver and things, and a little magnetic mat is very handy. I'm going to have to take the screw all the way out. Need to verify that it will fit through the hole. Oh, thank goodness. I need to verify it'll fit through the hole. I'm going to go 1 and 1. Which increases the likelihood I'll have to redo it, but it'd be hard to tell if it's too high. I'll only know if it's too low. And I want my action as low as I can without that secondary rattle. Alright. Now the fun of trying to get that in there. Lightly tighten it there, just to hold it in place. Don't you go falling in there. The heck? Leftover tape. I want to make sure and get it back in the right hole, because there's 3 rows of holes. Okay. My first alarm. Need my A1. I think it needs to come back forward a hair. Interesting. Very interesting. That is really high. These are about where I want them, so I'm actually gonna loosen that to retain this. But oh yeah, enjoy. These days, for an acoustic, you can get one of these little tuners. I like this one's a particularly good one. Hold the little button, set it for guitar, then you like clip it to something that vibrates. The headstock generally. Does a very good job. I think it's good to learn how to tune your instrument, but the most important thing, everybody's always used like pitch pipes or whatever to get like a note to start with. A1 sauce. You having steak? A1 sauce. Not like I was distracted by anything. I always go off the A if I'm using like a pitch pipe, because the E is so low that it's harder to match. I think it's important to like learn to tune the instrument together, but just to help train your ear. But these, hell yeah, I use them. And now that they're available, I use them. What the hell? The whole thing went out to. I don't know why the whole thing's gone so far out of tune. Oh, maybe because this E went up so much. Probably. Because that's going to put a lot of tension on the strings. Let's get that closer. So others will probably come back in line a bit. Yes. Yeah, that made everything closer. this tuner is very sensitive. Oh Lord, I thought my coworkers returned to the office, so I made a fart noise. Turns out it was two guys that do paint work and wanted to talk to the boss man. Welcome home. Go ahead and lock this down. Hurry. My pick go. Shouldn't have really gone sharp, I don't know. I guess before I bother getting this super precise for intonation, I should see if it rattles. So I might be just doing this again immediately. Need to be able to play it the way I normally would. Yep. It's like the level of vibration that is acceptable and the level that is not. It's got a bit of the it's not. Oh, 1140. Can I make it? So I'm going to put two more in, one under each one. That same operation. It's 11:40. I have to be there at noon. Oh, it screws all the way up. just do one at a time. I was thinking when I was writing the description for this video, it's like, should I just go ahead and write part 1, even though I'll have an hour and a half to do the 10-minute job? Ah, damn it. If you do this, remember that you've got hair thin little magnetic wire right there. You don't want to gouge. With anything metal. Oh boy. See one of the holes, but not the other. Come on, a little bit back on the top one. Oh, where'd it go? Okay. Thank God for magnetic bits. Oh, come on. Yeah, the farther back these saddles are, like if you move the saddle forward and backward, it will change the pitch either up or down. So it's quite possible. The reason that E went up so high last time was I may have just pulled the saddle back a little too far. Oh, this would have helped. Having a bit more, the string would have been more relaxed. Okay, where's the other fucking thing? I got 2 out. There it is. I set multiple alarms. Come to expect certain things in my life to happen. Ah. Move forward. Not that far forward. Yeah, yeah. Love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. No signal? So those two. Yeah, I imagine the dramatic change in tuning on these two strings is just because I've been moving the saddles. I'm not going to worry about the intonation yet because I haven't checked to see if it's in the right place, and it's just going to keep changing. Oh, welcome back. Yeah, did stop and do what Hello? Yep, I'm just about to go out the door. Bye. Love you. Gypsy, making sure I don't forget my appointment. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, yep, time to go. I'll think about whether I want to put one more in there. But that is where we're at. The A seems fine. The E might need one more shim, or maybe a very thin shim. Maybe even thinner than that. Take care, have fun. See you later, alligators. Bye-bye.